Hey you, Nick with CC Minis here, and today I'm going to show you how I made this most unholy tank, with the size and scale of a titan, blessed by the Emperor and piloted directly by a heretic. But before I show you how I made this, I need to tell you why.
Yeah, I could have emailed him, couldn't I? But someone decides to keep sending spam through my email account, so I go straight to junk, so no one responds. So I have to invite people by paper airplane. Cheers, Cat. Call them up. No, I don't like talking on the phone. Hope to God that they get there. I'm not going to hope to God. I'm not going to, put my faith in that. I'm going to put my faith in something much stronger than that, Cat. Video editing. Yeah, they'll get there. Don't worry.
A few weeks ago, I was reading up on ultramarine lore when suddenly it hit me. Consulting the table and my most trusted of decision makers, I ended up with these directions for the build. But we have one more table to roll on. On the back of Bill's big kitbashed generator, there is a secret table. A table that will determine which game I shoehorn this build into to make it fit with the rest of my channel. Yeah, I don't know about that one. I'm gonna go ahead and use my tournament reroll here. Oh yeah. Much better. Two of these rolls in particular determine the overall feel for the build, and will infer all other creative choices from here on. Flavor, which I rolled Holy, and the sheer fact that I am dangerously obsessed with Warhammer. In the Warhammer 40,000 universe, there's one faction that screams Holy, the Ecclesiarchy, and by extension, the Sisters of Battle. So this bot is going to end up being a part of that organization, at least somehow. Building this from the ground up, what did we get for legs? Ooh, 4. Tank treads. As you all know, there's only one tank that could possibly work here. The only tank that is holy, which is of course, the Churchill. It just makes sense, and this was an excellent kit to put together. Nice. It even came with some little steel weights so you can put into the tank hull itself to make it feel nice and heavy. That's a great touch to Mia. On to the next roll, let's see what kind of body this tank will have. 5. Brick shithouse. Combined with Holy, a brick shithouse reminds me of old brick churches, with their steeples rising high above the small towns where their congregations reside. So let's give this tank a church tower and a steeple.
To make a brick tower, I used a texture roller on EVA foam, then cut and glued chunks onto an oddly square plastic box, before cutting the excess off with an X-Acto. This isn't perfect, but we'll come back to it.
I pulled out my high school geometry education to cut some isosceles trapezoids out of the thickest styrene sheets I had around. Then regressed to my preschool days and attempted a tape assembly. This went okay, but the corners and edges were all higgledy-piggledy in the end. So I reinforced them with some Orc-approved green sprue glue on the inside, then heavily sanded them down to remove the wonk. Whenever you're sanding plastic, I highly recommend using the wet sand method. This traps all the plastic shavings in water so they aren't all floating up into your nose holes. Microplastics are great for free weathering, but they're absolutely terrible for the old lung sponges. After gluing the steeple together, I mixed up some milliput to fill in the gap around the top spire. I want this to look like it's cast out of one piece, like they used to do with old tank hulls back in the day. And filling up this thick moat of a gap will help it all look like it was made out of one piece. These corners with the scraggly edges from the foam don't look so good, so I want to add something to cover them up. First, I use a sheet of styrene that has some recessed lines on it. I think these are used for making trains or something, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a doctor. Unfortunately, the same indentations that helped me fold a corner started to snap and break. Next, I try these long styrene cylinders that people are known to buy to circumvent the plastic straw bans in California, but I just couldn't keep my cut straight enough for this to work. My last option was a styrene I-beam, which I carefully cut down to size, removing all the eye and beam portions until I was left with just a. The milliput is now cured and ready to be sanded. A couple files were used to sand down and carve out the desired, you just pinch the top of a pyramid type of shape. Like I mentioned earlier, I want this to look like cast metal. This technique uses Tamiya putty thinned down with extra thin plastic cement. The putty is generously dabbed again and again and again on the surface until a lovely mottled and matted texture appears. You just keep tippy-tip tapping down, going over the whole surface until a texture turns out like this. Once this noxious white goop is cured, you can give it a very light sand with some sandpaper to knock down the highest peaks, and you are left with a nice mottled mini. Let's roll for the arms. 5. Stubby. Okay, yeah, I'm not really sure how to handle that one yet. Let's roll for the hands as well and see if that helps out. 10. Big guns. Okay, I think I know what to do. Stubby but with big guns on a tank, that sounds like sponson. And sponsons are short from a quick word from today's sponsor. I don't have a sponsor, but I do have a deal just for you. If you help me get to 40,000 subscribers by the end of this year, I'm gonna do a full 24-hour challenge. Like, stay up for a full day and complete either an actual Night Titan or a full 40k army. So subscribe and you can sleep easily knowing that you're going to mess up my sleep schedule sometime this year. Thank you. Back to the sponsons. Since this tank is part of the ecclesiarchy, it just makes sense to give it a big old flamer, which we will seat proudly on a stubby little left arm. I found a bit that reminded me of a shoulder and shoved a goopy pipe right up its pit hole as an arm. Then I found some flamers I had glued together years ago for this exact purpose. Now flamers are great against chaff, but this puppy needs some anti-tank too. I have this 3D printed jumbo plasma gun from accounts as Dreadnought 3D print that I let my son paint, which he quickly dropped and lost interest in after it shattered into 42 pieces. Don't worry about him, he's moved on to some other things to paint. The kid's natural, I'm telling you. So goddamn proud of him. And yes, that was 3D printed. Don't pay that too much mind. Phil's rules are more of guidelines anyway. Let's roll for the head. 10. Fishbowl. You know what? I might actually have the perfect mini for this. Yes, I have a mini with its head in a bowl and is holy. Well, undergoing holy punishment, that is. The Penitent Engine. Some sinners have sinned so hard in the 41st millennia that the church punishes them by strapping them in the front of a war machine that they control and sending them right in the front lines, with only close range and melee weapons. To read an excerpt from the Great Warhammer 40k wiki, to be a pilot of a Penitent Engine is to have committed a terrible crime. One so heinous that punishment such as imprisonment, exile, archoflagellation, or even execution is deemed too lenient. The repentant heretic is hardwired into the front of a war engine, and unlike Space Marine dreadnoughts, which are fully enclosed, the penitent sinner is fully exposed to enemy attack, relying only upon the Emperor's judgment to keep them safe or take their life. Our Penitent Engine is going to work the exact same, it's just going to be a lot bigger. Looking at this as a whole, I really like the left arm's pauldron, and found another one of these defiler bits for the right arm. So I brought out a hobby saw and hacked off the right shoulder ham before plopping on an identical plastic pauldron part. To make the piece a little less heresy-y, I shaved down the little chaos triangles around the pauldron trim. Everyone knows that triangles are the strongest shape, and that's because they get their strength from the devil. One more technique I want to lightly steal from scale modelers is adding some weld lines around a few of the panels. Now this is my first time trying this, and it shows. The intention is to lay down some green stuff snakes around all the edges that I want to look welded together. Then use some flat-ish thing to push down all the indents into the green stuff, making it look like weld marks. I used a flat tip screwdriver to do this, but it was a little oversized and the marks, well, they end up being a bit wider than desired. Oh well, there's a first time for everything. Last bit of the big bot bash build was to steal some brazers from a knockoff Sisters Rhino I printed last year, and I don't want to use it anymore. I slapped them on the front end of the Churchill using some green stuff, which was also shaped into weld lines.
I'm going to give this bad heretical bot a quick sloppy paint job, but in the meantime, here are some absolutely amazing bots that were built for this big bot bash by other builders. I'll have a link to the playlist at the very end.
Before we roll the final shots, huge thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel. Your contributions directly funded purchasing the Churchill for this big bot bash build. Thank you so much. go watch some of the other Big Bot Bash videos. The playlist is right here. Don't forget to subscribe to ruin my night's sleep sometime this year, and let me know what you think my 24-hour challenge should be in the comments below. Until next time, y'all, stay happy and take care. Peace.